Welcome to our webinar on what's new in low-code automation. I'm Deepshi, Product Marketing Manager here at BrowserStack, and working on marketing activities for our flagship products like Live App Live and newer products like low-code automation. I will be moderating the session today. We have exciting lineup of speakers who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience in low-code testing. Our first speaker is Dmitry, Director of QA at Royal Caribbean Group. Dmitry is a visionary QA leader with over 20 years of experience excelling and managing QA departments, implementing QA processes in various environments. Dmitry, please tell us more about yourself and your work.
Thank you, Deepshi, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. It's an exciting time to be part of this journey when I was able to leverage my expertise and be able to help BrowserStack to get their product to the final production line. And let me tell you about myself. It's been a great journey for me. I started this back in .com bubble timeframe when I was able to actually catch up exciting e-commerce projects and even using some of the tools, first automation tools on the market, the test partner and Silk Test. Some of you may be familiar with those. And throughout my journey, I've been obsessed with the customer experience and the quality in general, because it doesn't matter where you use the quality. Even I use it in my personal life. For me, it's important to have a high standards of quality, and I apply the same principles to every work I'm doing, and that's why I'm still able to enjoy this great journey. I've been through multiple industries. As I mentioned, I started with e-commerce in Bay Area, then moved to New York area, where I got exposed more to financial institutions, banks, and then decided to a little bit switch to different industries like biometrics, fintech. And for the last couple of years, I've been pleased to work with the travel industry. And for the last couple of years, I've been working with Royal Caribbean Group, where I overseeing all of the quality initiatives, including automation and all the quality governance. And that's how I met with this great team, because we're leveraging their product, BrowserStack. And for the last 6 months, they came up with the more innovative product, which is the low-code. And I was able to partner with them and leveraging this tool for my team. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Thank you, Dmitry. Our second speaker is Shyam. Shyam is a group product manager here at BrowserStack, leading the low-code automation product and Speed Lab. He has been instrumental in shaping the direction of BrowserStack's low-code automation solution. Shyam, could you please share more about yourself?
I think you're muted.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I've been at BrowserStack for 3 years and worked on different SaaS products before that. I have worked both as a full stack engineer and product manager in large enterprises as well as startups. Here at BrowserStack, I'm the lead product manager for the low-code automation product. I'm excited to have a chat with Dmitry on his experience with low-code automation. I'm also excited to talk to you later about the various new features we have built since the last webinar that we had in March and since the beta release. Thank you, Deepshi.
Thank you, Shyam. So before we begin, there are some few housekeeping items. The session will run for 1 hour with 15 minutes reserved for Q&A at the end. The session will be recording and the recording will be sent to you, all the participants. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in Zoom Q&A box. We'll address them during the Q&A session at the end. Now let's jump into the content of the webinar. A brief agenda. We'll start with the comprehensive look at BrowserStack Low-Code Automation. We'll then move to Dmitry's experience of adopting low-code automation in his team, the benefits that his team has encountered and how they're measuring them. Our speakers will share their insights and experience to help you implement these best practices in your organization. We'll then move on to our product demo, followed by the Q&A session. We have a lot of valuable information to cover, so let's get started. Now, if we talk about the traditional testing problems, what is the first thing that comes in your mind? The lengthy manual regression testing, which consumes your valuable time. Manual testing solutions require a high level of coding proficiency, which excludes non-technical people from the team. Now, you know what? We have the solution, BrowserStack Low-Code Automation. After an extensive beta launch, we are excited to bring low-code automation with new features, empowering you to achieve faster releases, high software quality, enhanced team productivity. Now, before we begin, let's hear it from our audience how they are automating functional tests in their teams. So you'll see a poll question on your screen. Please select an option and we'll keep the poll open for 30 seconds. Thank you everyone for your participation. Now let's hear it from Dmitry from his first-hand experience of BrowserStack Low-Code Automation. Over to you, Shyam.
Thank you, Deepshi. Dmitry, we have been working with you closely for the past 6 months, since the beta launch of the product, right? I wanted to discuss a few things with you so that, it helps everyone who has, attending the webinar today on your experience so far and the different dimensions of it, right? Let's start the discussion, about your decision to adopt low-code automation. I would like to understand what prompted you to consider low-code automation for your team first.
Very important for me was how can I promote the innovation into our teams and into a company, because we cannot really work the same way we used to be 10 years ago. Yeah, the industry is evolving, the technology is evolving, and with the Gen AI narrative that is right now is very hot, you really need to look how I can improve, how can I do more with the same amount of resource that I have, how I can optimize my time to market value, as well as the leverage the same people that I have who may not have necessarily technical skill set to code, but they are very valuable asset of the company with the knowledge base, with the amount of expertise that they got. So combining all of those multiple aspects, I decided, okay, what else can we do to increase the coverage, to increase the automation coverage, and still be able to release and be able to increase the speed to market, because that's important. How can you have the same amount of resources, but I really want to continue delivering, increase the continued delivery, be able to release more quickly without sacrificing the quality. So combining all those different items, I decided, okay, well, let's try it. And again, it's not the replacement, at least for me yet, for the traditional coding automation, which we'll talk later on about. but that's the story.
Got it. Got it. So in short, if I understand it correctly, it has increased the productivity of your testing team. This tool has helped increase the productivity.
Productivity, that's the first, yeah, obvious thing, productivity and much more to this.
Got it. Thank you. And how much time did it take for your team to start using the tool?
If you want to use the tool as is and simple to have a simple recording test, you can just use it. You don't need much time to learn. But again, what would be the outcome? I was very against this simple recording like 10 years ago when it was didn't have much capabilities, yeah. But by looking at right now what you guys built and with the Gen AI capability, it become a very mature tool that's capable to do what you can do with traditional coding. So depending on the level, how deep you want to go to leverage every single capability of the tool, because it has API technique, it has test data management, has the modularization, has scalability to be able to run on parallels, and more to that, and test data management, be able to create multiple modules and so on. So as you go in deeper and deeper and you become more proficient, even the developers can actually leverage the tool to offset their to be able to increase speed to market. So there are multiple variants, multiple use cases for that too.
Got it. And so since you mentioned developers, right? Like to explore this part. How did you decide to use low-code automation when you also had, a script framework-based automation like, Selenium or Cypress also in your organization?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. We do have an existing framework, very comprehensive, very robust, and very well invested framework using WebDriver.io and TypeScript. And about 85% of our major P1 scenarios, priority 1 scenarios, are automated. For me, it wasn't really, I didn't want to replace it because we invested so much and it works, and we invested into tooling as well as the people.
Yes.
But in addition to automation engineers, I also have a lot of high performance and knowledge-based QA analysts who are capable of using such tools without actually have a very technique expertise in coding. And I want to give them something so that they can innovate as well, so that by replacing those tedious, repeatedly steps, they can actually improve their code coverage, improve time to market, and make their day-to-day activities more exciting. Because at the end, you really want to, you would like to love what you do, yeah. And by leveraging those tools, innovative tools, exciting tools, and also Gen AI capabilities, because right now, if you're not following the Gen AI narratives, you're behind. And as a matter of fact, we actually built a couple of internal projects in my team leveraging Gen AI for test case creation automation, for various bots to operationalize our day-to-day activities. And that's what I feel passionate about. And that's why I encourage my team to follow the same. Yeah, I think that's...
Sure. So in short, if I understand what you said correctly, you do have automation in place, script-based automation in place, and you have invested a lot and you will continue with that. But you have a lot of testers who have very good testing knowledge, but not necessarily coding knowledge. And low-code automation helps in upskilling them to do to contribute to automation coverage, if I understand.
Yes, Just to add a little bit more insights, it also depends on the nature of the product.
Yeah.
If your product is constantly changing and it's very dynamic, perhaps it's not the best candidate for this. But what I decided to do, we have, as you know, in the Royal Caribbean, we have a lot of data sets, a lot of different ships, itineraries, sailings, international markets. And every week we have a new ship deployments, meaning the new sailings are opening up, the new itineraries are changing, and we need to test this. And we need to test this on production. And before, the team was doing this manually. Very tedious, going through each sailings and validating all the data sets are and functionality is working. And I was thinking, okay, how can I give them something to improve their testing process? And low-code was the perfect example. And if you notice, I don't call it really low-code, no-code. It really requires you to use a low-code, because if you just use no-code, it becomes a simple recording and it will not work. It will not give you reliable non-flakiness test. So you really need to leverage, as I mentioned earlier, every single capability of the tool to make your test a bulletproof, reliable, and be able to run it on production for multiple different use cases and various.
Sure. Let's now discuss about the benefits you have observed from your adoption of low-code automation. One thing I would like to understand is how has it impacted your test coverage and testing cycle times? And are there any other benefits in terms of QA outcome after you adopted low-code automation?
Yes. So after a couple of months of work, we are able to automate about 46 scenarios for each sailings, assuming we have dozens of those. Huge time saver. We're able to save at least 6 hours per validation, and we have multiple of those deployments on a weekly basis. So while the tests are running, my team is able to focus on increasing the coverage, focusing on more ad hoc testing. So there's definitely a huge benefits of those tests. Couple other nuances I want to mention is the cost reduction, obviously. Yeah. So you're reducing the cost by spending more time on some other activities rather than this tedious, repeatedly task that doesn't really bring any value.
Yeah.
But by having those tests, then that's the best value. And of course, be able to release more quickly, more rapidly, because you're running those tests, and maintenance is minimum. Actually, we noticed that with your self-healing capability, the maintenance decreased even more. So I'm very excited to be one of the first users of this self-healing, because that's what Gen AI brings. Yeah, if you're just using tool as is, it's still back in 10 years ago era, basically. But you added a couple of Gen AI capability to be able to generate your test using natural language, be able to use prompts, be able to randomize some of the data creation using AI, and that's great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. How scalable and flexible have you find low-code automation in the different scenarios that you have come across?
Yes. First of all, you guys introduced the parallelization, yeah, which is the key to the scalability.
Yes.
And the more parallel session you can have, the more scalability it will, it will increase your scalability. But also, it depends how you're leveraging all the test data capability of the tool. Because what we do, we parameterize all of our tests and we modularize them in order to scale your development and scale ability to run those tests on multiple markets, be able to use the same module, the same validation, the same test case, but to validate different settings, different data sets. That's what scalability is all about. So you have to really first spend time on designing your framework, designing your paradigms, and see how the modules will be created in order to not to duplicate sign-in module. Let's say you have sign-in, you only have to write it once, yeah, and put it as a module, as a block, and functions. And also, if you want to increase the coverage, not just the front end and back end, combine both, because that's what benefits is. Sometimes you need to create some data and you use your API capability from low-code so that you can create the data and then you use a front-end capability to produce, to go through the end user journey.
Got it. Happy to know that, it is, scaling for all the different, data-driven testing is helping you to scale the same test case for multiple regions and multiple sailings. That's good to know.
Actually, I forgot to mention about one thing, sorry for interruption. Multiple browsers, yeah. You recently added those capability, which is great. So you develop your code once, and you can choose from multiple browsers, and it will execute them on parallels, which is a great addition to the scalability, as well as the multiple devices you can run it on.
Yes.
Browser, desktop, on mobiles, and so on.
Yes. Yeah. The same test which you use for functional regression testing can be used for the cross-browser testing aspect also. And how do you measure the the effectiveness and the results of these low-code automation in your overall testing strategy? Like you said, you have done 85% of your P1 test cases using framework-based automation, right? How do you see the results and success or effectiveness of the low-code automation tests in your overall testing strategy?
Yeah. Based on my background, we all know how the flaky test can be. So one of the criteria to measure the success is reliability of your test, and how fragile are they? How flaky are they? And that's one of the criteria. And as we adding more and more tests, we can see the history, how reliable are they? Are they failing due to the false negatives or false positives? And that's one of the measure criteria. Another one is the speed. Yeah, how quickly the test can be executed, as well as the capability of the parallelization. And of course, time to market. Yes, you have to compare how much time it takes to do the same amount of tests to validate manually versus using your tool. And also ability to measure how often can you release. The more you can release, the less risky it is. Yeah, so coming back from waterfall into the agile. Yeah, that's what the beauty of agile is, that you iterate with a small amount of new functionality, and you release, and you test with a small canary allocations. That's another thing that we do and leverage here quite a lot in RCG to mitigate the risk. We partner with DevOps, and with a continuous delivery capability, we release on a small scale, and then we use our observability dashboards and monitoring to see how the new build is behaving on production. And then we start increasing traffic little by little.
Sure. And what do you see as the role of low-code automation in your future QA strategy based on, we know it is a short time, right? We have, engaged in the early stages of the product. You've been using the product for about 6 months, including the beta time period, everything. So based on your experience so far, what do you see as the role of low-code automation in your QA strategy going forward?
Yeah, great question. It depends on the long-term and short-term goals. For example, we have multiple departments, and one of the departments decided to completely switch from traditional framework coding to low code, and they were able to successfully do it. In my opinion, I want to leverage both. I want to keep leveraging both, depending on the use case, depending on people's skill set. So I want to keep increasing the coverage for the areas that we don't have traditional automation, and where it makes sense to easily add this coverage. For example, you have your sprint, and you know that something will change, but you don't want to repeat it every day. So you quickly design your test to test the sprint functionality. And this will increase your time to market, and it will increase your, but not necessarily it will add those tests to the main regression. I can add those tests to the main regression using traditional automation. But for some edge cases, for something very quick to deliver, to be able to add this coverage as part of your sprint schedule, that's where I see the big benefits, as well as for the, like I mentioned, the ship deployment, for example, we use, but we also have a lot of email validations where data is changing. Again, the templates are the same, data is changing. And I think it's a very, one of the best use cases for this tool, as well as we have a lot of promotions on the website. They're constantly changing, but we validate exactly the same type of data sets. So by parameterizing the data sets, we are right now actually in the process of increasing our coverage for promotions on the website. So that's another candidate for this tool. So you have to be picky, you have to be strategic and have a plan where to invest in using which tool. But I'm a big fan of trying multiple tools and see where the best fit is.
Sure. So one of the key points in you used low-code automation for the cases where you wanted to automate within the sprint because the time taken to create those tests are much faster. Is that correct?
That's one of the reasons. Yeah. Again, if you want to apply it to the sprint, yes. Yes, it takes quicker to create those tests because you're recording, you're using GenAI. And if you have history of pre-recorded commonly used methods and functions, the same as you do in your traditional automation, it becomes easy to choose from already a pre-existed library of those tests, of those methods. And that's also increased productivity.
Sure. And no, one last question, right? Or probably not a question, but rather an advice, which we want from you is that we have, lot of QA leaders and managers in our audience today. What suggestions would you give, or suggestion or advice would you give to them based on your experience of low-code automation? What are the things that they need to keep in mind, and what are things which you might have had as a myth in the past, but with like you said, right, you yourself didn't believe in low-code automation in the legacy tools, but nowadays you believe in it, right? So what are the suggestions which you would give to them when they need to look at their team and then the tool set that they are using and the strategy, and anything that would help them with this.
Very important to have a plan and to have a strategy. And where you want to be, the short-term goal, the long-term goal, and assess your product, how testable the product is. And have the training involved, because again, to be successful in this, leveraging this tool, you have to leverage all possible capability of the tool from inside out, 360. And that, as I mentioned, API capability, test data capability, modularization, be able to use custom code snippets even, be able to leverage the custom scripts, JavaScripts. Because without those, you won't be successful. Your test will be flaky. You have to set a cookie. You have to, for example, in our side, there is a lot of custom JavaScript that we have to use to validate a specific type of validation, as well as modularization. You really need to structure your test so that you don't repeat it twice. Otherwise, your test will be very fragile and it will be breaking every time you run it. So that's the key to success. Basically, have the same architecture structure that you use in your traditional automation. When you sit and you you build the framework first, even before you start running the test scenarios. You need to have a framework. You need to have objection, what you want to achieve by that framework. I want to have object-oriented approach, and the same object-oriented approach you have to apply to the low-code as well. I think that's, most important part.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Dmitry.
Thank you, Dmitry and Shyam. I'm sure the audience would relate to these points, and your experience, Dmitry, provides a valuable perspective on the motivation on adopting low-code automation and how it's transforming the landscape. Now, next, we move on to the most awaited segment of our webinar, the product demo. So over to you, Shyam, to walk our audience through our product.
Sure. Let me share my screen now.
Now the most exciting time of the demo.
Yeah. I hope everyone can see my see the application that I have shared.
Yes, sure.
Okay. So this is our low-code application, low-code automation application. This is the desktop app, but we also have a web app with the same things, and everything can be done in both. Just for recording a test, you need to have a desktop application, right? So I'm going to record an end-to-end workflow on calendly.com. I have selected the desktop form factor, and I have selected a 1280 by 1024 resolution, but it also supports all the resolution that your screen can support, right? Let's do a recording. This is the recorder that is getting launched. We launch a clean session of Chrome browser on your system. This doesn't have any of the history or cookies or anything from your regular browser session, right? So let's say I start performing the actions. Even actions like hover gets recorded automatically without any additional action being required. Let's say I do a login. You can see all the steps getting recorded on the right side here. They are recorded in simple English so that anyone can understand them. Even they don't have to be a technical person, even a business analyst or a project manager, scrum managers can understand these things. Fields like password is automatically identified and the password is masked on the recorder also. We support all kinds of elements like iframes and shared arms in the recording. Now the page has loaded. So before proceeding further to create an event, I want to validate that the page has successfully loaded. right? So I will validate that this URL is present before I go about creating a new event type. Let's say I want to create a new event type. Now, before I go ahead and select the event type here, I want to validate that there are 4 different event types being listed on this page. Their text and the icons and everything are appearing properly, right? So this would require multiple complex validations and time-consuming validations to achieve this. What we have come up with is a visual validation where you can select the container that you want to validate and then take a screenshot of it, right? So this screenshot is captured during the test creation, and later during test execution, the same screenshot is used as a baseline to compare against the runtime test execution screenshot. So this simplifies the test complex, validating complex things into a simple single validation, which replicates a manual tester testing it via looking through his eyes, right? So let's continue. Now the event name is given and the event has successfully created. The next step would be to share this event with anyone whom you want to book a meeting. Let's say I want to do a text validation on the URL. I do that. I also want to ensure that there is an element present on the page. That is the customize and share button is present on this page, right? So I do a element presence validation for the same, right? Let's save this recording. You can add a tag. Let's say I wanted, if this is a regression test for me, you can see the details used to create the test. Do a save and run. We run the test locally once so that you can see that the test is executing as you expected and performing as you expected, right? So this also again launches a new session of Chrome and starts executing the test on your screen so that you can see what is happening as and when it is executing, right? We also take a screenshot for each step so that later, if you want to debug some things, you can see what was the state of the application when that particular step was performed. So you can see the test is progressing here. When we execute the same tests on BrowserStack Cloud, you also get a video recording of the test. So right from the browser launch till the last step, you get to see what actually happened on the cloud browser also. So now a screenshot is taken and BrowserStack's visual validation engine per se is doing a comparison of the 2 images and then will send a result back, what are the differences it found between the 2 images. So if you see the images has come back and there are no differences, if there were any differences, you would see red highlights indicating the same. So we see that the test failed. Let's see what was the step which failed. So step 21, which is validate element text should be equal to this, has failed. The reason is in the actual value, there is a -1 at the end. So you can see there is a -1. This is because we used the same event name twice. And for the second one, for the URL to be unique, it has added a -1 at the end. Let's edit the test and fix this part. Now, this is the step where it failed. Let's say instead of equals, I switch it to contains. Now, in this case, it will ensure that the test will actually succeed whenever it gets executed in the future, right? Some things which I want to go through in this section is that we capture a lot of information about the element So it's not just one CSS selector or XPath that we capture. We capture its neighboring elements, all the element in the hierarchy and things like that. Now, if you don't, for a particular element for some scenario, you want to override those details, you can provide a XPath or CSS path. And we will use that in preference to our element details which we capture. The other feature is the intelligent timeout. This is a very critical feature because you might create the test in one environment and run it in different environments with different configurations. Intelligent timeout ensures that the test execution engine waits for the right amount of time in each environment. And as soon as the element appears on the screen, it will perform the action and proceed. So you don't get the flakiness, or you don't have to manually add, wait timeouts or in between steps, like, wait for 5 seconds for that element to appear and then perform the action. All those things are not required in this case. We also have on failure, we by default select an intelligent default option. For steps where it is a validation, we fail the test but continue with the rest of the execution because there might be other validations you might want to perform as part of the same test journey. But for navigation steps, we may want to fail the test immediately. There could be scenarios where you have a marketing pop-up which comes up randomly sometimes. In those cases, you can just simply issue a warning but continue execution. So this will not even fail the test for you, right? In addition to this, Dmitry spoke about how to use modules. For example, in this case, let's say I want to reuse the login step as part of multiple test journeys that I want to create. So I have selected all the steps from opening the URL to eventually clicking continue on the password page. I'll do a create module here. Login, create module. Right now, this login module can be imported in multiple tests where I need to perform the same thing. If there were any fixes or changes that happens to this workflow, I open any of the tests where this is being used, and then I make one change, and the change will be reflected in all the tests. So that's about it. Now let me save this test. Now let's see the test suites aspect of it. In test suites, you can create a test suite and create a collection of tests, individual tests within them, right? So let me add the test which we created just now. You can add more tests if you want to, right? Typically, you will have a lot more tests. I can also select the browsers on which I want to run. Although I recorded the test on Chrome, I can run the same test against multiple browsers. Proceed. I can schedule them to run on a particular day and time of the week. If you have CI tools, you can integrate this as part of your CI pipeline. If the environment is private on a private network, you can add this to a private network by using BrowserStack's local testing. You can run it on different environments by giving a host domain of the target environment. You can also test it against different geolocations. We have about 60 plus countries and 30 plus states supported. Let me save this test suite. I'll trigger the test suite on demand right now. This will trigger the tests on BrowserStack's cloud infrastructure. I can go to the builds. I can see that this build is queued right now. It will be picked up for execution very soon. But I have a test suite which I had run before with the same results, right? Similar test and similar results. We can go through that and see what has happened in those cases, right? So this is a test suite with a similar test which I ran some time ago. You can see the results over here. It has a similar interface to the local run which we saw. Has screenshots at each step, console logs, network logs. This is a HAR file. This is a text file. Everything that you will get in a local browser. You can also see the complete test execution from the browser launch till the end of it, right? You can go to an edit test also directly from here to fix anything that you find in this. Let me also talk about a little bit about the new features which we have launched. And so we have launched AI enhancements. For example, we have AI-based self-healing, which ensures that the test failure rates are reduced by about 25 to 30%, reducing the maintenance efforts required for updating the tests. So even if the page changes, but still the workflow remains the same, the AI takes care of that. We also have mobile testing. So we have brought in about 34 new mobile devices. Let me show that to you. So in the tests, now you can do a mobile test, tablet, and we also support landscape mode also. Let me select a device here. We support about 34 devices, Android, iPhones, and tablets and everything. Depending on the selection, you will be able to see those things, right? Then we have also started supporting more advanced options. For example, if you are testing on a local website and it has basic authentication, you can support that. If you want to test specific returning user scenario or suppress pop-ups based on cookies, you can use cookies and local storage configurations. If you have CAPTCHAs in your environment, you can disable them by passing specific custom headers and configuring the same header value to pass through in your web application firewall configurations. We already spoke about CI integration, which was another feature which we brought in as part of the GA release. We also have parallel testing now. Parallel testing ensures that you can improve your feedback cycle by reducing the build times and executing faster. We also already spoke about IP geolocation as a feature, right? Let me come back to the slideshow. Okay. So how does the product demo and the features that you saw align with your expectations and address your functional regression testing needs? If you can answer on a scale of 1 to 10, that would be very helpful for us. I had to kind of rush the demo to meet the time we have so that we can give some time for answering the Q&As. If you want a detailed demo, reach out to the AEs and we should be able to give a proper demo covering all the functionalities like API steps, where we have complete data-driven supporting within the API steps and variables, and everything is available in that.
Thanks everyone for responding to the poll. Now we move on to the last segment of the webinar, the Q&A. I can see we have already quite a number of questions. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. If we are not able to take it up right now, you will receive an answer in your email. So Shyam and Dmitry, let's pick up the question.
I've been answering a couple of them while the demo.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks, Dmitry.
Okay. So what does unit testing look like in low-code environment? This is mainly for functional testing and regression and sanity test suits. Other question I see. Is the low-code automation tool effective and useful on its own, or does it require integration with other BrowserStack products to be fully beneficial? This is effective on its own. In fact, our long-term vision for the product is that it will be a low-code automation platform which today it supports functional and cross-browser testing. In future, we plan to support visual testing and accessibility testing and API testing also in a low-code fashion on the same platform. So it will be a complete low-code platform where you have the same capabilities as manual testing or script-based automation testing would give you.
And just to add to this, I think it's very important to mention it leveraging your existing platform capabilities, such as be able to run on the cloud, on your cloud, as well as the recording. So you're leveraging all of this existing capability that has been done for regular automation, but now you're actually leveraging for low code as well.
Yeah. Other question that I see, have you used this type of testing in an automated release pipeline, such as an Azure pipeline? Yes, we have customers integrated it as part of their pipelines. It can be integrated with any pipeline, any CI/CD pipeline that you may have. So we have sample scripts in our documentation, which helps you how to trigger the build, get the result, and update the pipeline with the result of the build.
A lot of people are also asking about the AI features that we have.
Yes.
Can you also talk about them?
Yeah, so let me give a short demo on the AI feature so that you get to see that aspect. Let me go to google.com here. So we have about 3 specific AI capabilities today on our product. Let me exit this and do the proper one. One is prompt-based test generation. Second one is prompt-based test data, random test data generation. And third one is AI-based self-healing, which helps in the execution of the tests, right? For example, in this case, let's say you give something simple like click on the submit button or fill up the login form. It will be able to perform that action easily. But let's say I give even something higher level statement like get the stock price of Apple. So it's not trained on this page. What we have trained the AI is on the testing capabilities, like what all actions can be performed, what all validations can be performed. That is the that is what the model is trained on. You can see that it has figured out the page. It has a text input where you can give a search input, right? The search term it figured out on its own. It figured the next step that it needs to do a click on search button. So the third step, let's see what it does. It takes some time because it analyzes the page and then figures out what it needs to do next progressively. It has extracted the value that we see here from this page and also populated it into a variable so that we can proceed further. And another thing I would like to highlight is that it doesn't do any hallucination. It knows when exactly to stop. So we have been working on this capability for many months now, and our AI team has improved the capability and removed any kind of hallucination and things like that. Another thing I would like to highlight is the AI-based test data generation. Let's say you want to fill multiple pages where you may have form fields and things like that. And you want to generate a random data every time you execute the test so that you don't have to do cleanup between each execution. Let's say it's an email field. I can do something like so you can give a descriptive prompt and then give generate, and it will give you a value, right? I can do a generate again and it will give me a different value. So this is something which we have already seen useful in fields to fill up address Any forms where you have like, multiple form fields, you can just fill the form field and it will fill the form fields. So this is some of our AI capability. The third one doesn't have a visual aspect where the prompt, where the test step description and the metadata captured is used to find the element if our default algorithm doesn't find the element by itself.
We have another question around like what is the format the recording is saved in, and can it be exported and edited?
Sure. So we don't generate any static script today. What we do is we capture the action information and metadata about the element that on which the action needs to be performed. So what happens is, using this information, a runtime engine generates the commands in a framework to execute the test. Tomorrow, if we want to, use the same data and generate the commands in a new framework or any new framework that comes up, the customer or the user doesn't have to do anything. We on the backend will implement the new framework and it will be able to generate the tests on that framework using the new capabilities. For example, if there is any new capability from BiDi WebDriver, BiDi things which come in, we will be able to incorporate into the framework without updating the tests. We do plan to export them as test scripts also, but that is in the roadmap. Probably in the next 3 to 6 months, we will have that capability where you can export the test as a script. Today we don't have it because we don't generate a static script today. That's the reason.
Thanks, Sham. With that, we come to the end of our Q&A session. With that, we come to the end of our hour together. Thank you all for engaging with the questions. I hope you did find something useful here. As we wrap up, I would like to extend a special thank you to our speakers, Sham and Dmitry, for sharing their expertise with us today. We will be sending out the recording for this webinar and also answering the questions which we couldn't answer during the live session. Thank you all.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite and having this great opportunity to speak and share our experience at Royal Caribbean.
Thank you, Dmitry. Thank you, everyone.